Jeff, it's all yours
Yeah.
now.
No. Does anybody have anything to share? I'm uh, anything that some experience you had or something you remember about Baba or some flash from the infinite?
Now, I just found a couple of Rumi couplets. I thought maybe I can
Yeah.
quickly share them. Yeah. Here it is. He says, keep walking, though there is no place to get into. Sorry, keep walking, though there is no place to get to. Don't try to see through the distances. That's not for human beings. Move within. But don't move the way fear makes you move. And the next one is this I like pretty much, very much. No better love than love with no object. No more satisfying work than work with no purpose. If you could give up tricks and cleverness, that would be the cleverest trick. And, and here is one more. I'm so small, I can barely be seen. How can this great love be inside me? Look at your eyes. They're small, but they see enormous things. So that's what I have. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Prakash.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Prasad, have you did you find anything there around the house to bring out?
I can share a quote I just received today that was I thought was a little funny.
Good.
So I'll read that. Some of you may have read this today, but this is from Mehra, November 1962. It goes, Meher Baba has told us that at the time of Rama, people were rather good, and the world was not like it is now. But Rama told his devotees and disciples that it would not always be so. That when the Kali Yuga or Iron Age came, it would be the worst and most destructive in the world's history. That there would be much war, degeneration, and depravity. The word got around, and all the followers came and begged Lord Rama, please do not let us incarnate in the dreadful Kali Yuga age. Now Mehra is smiling, so here we all are.
And what was that? What was that last thing you said?
So here we all are.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
get
in
that?
fact, Erish used to say that the Kali Yuga began on the battlefield with Krishna when he delivered the Bhagavad Gita. That was the beginning of the Kali Yuga. But Baba said an interesting thing. Mansari used to describe this during the Kali Yuga, where it's 75% selfishness and 25% selflessness. During a golden age, Baba said it's 75% selflessness and, and 25% selfishness, but it never becomes 100% selflessness. But Baba said during this Kali Yuga, this much effort gives you this much progress. I'm putting my arms wide. And during a golden age, this much effort, my arms are wide. This is Baba saying, gives you just this much effort, this much progress. So this is a good time to progress. This much effort during this time gives you great progress. And, you know, I mean, as long as we're trying to be loving, one of the things that Baba said to me back in the 60s when I was uh, back in my college days, when I was agonizing over what I was going to do with my life. And I was very nostalgic about my childhood, which had been idyllic. My childhood went on forever. It was magnificent. But then I was very regretful about some of the very selfish things I did during my college years. And at the same time, the Vietnam War was going on, and everybody had to stay in college if they wanted to avoid the war. So it was, I was in a mental turmoil. And one day, Baba flashed this to me. In every moment, there is always something loving that can be done. In every moment, there's always something loving that can be done. Now, I was only about 10% in the present. I had to get myself fully in the present. It took decades and decades to get into the present because I was energetically in the future, agonizing what I was going to do with my life. I was energetically in the past with my nostalgia for my childhood and also the regrets I had. And I was not even, and because I was so against the war in Vietnam, I was out, pulled back from the present. So the whole object was I realized that Baba was basically commanding me to get into the present. And that, not the passing present. There's a passing present and there's a timeless present. That's another whole journey. But I once asked, I once said to Merwan Jesawala, quoting Baba, I said, Baba said, live more and more in the present, which is ever beautiful and stretches away beyond the limits of the past and the future. And I said, Merwan, what does that mean to you? Ms. Merwan Jesawala, Erich's brother. He said, you will only find Baba in the present. You won't find him in thinking about the past or the future. He said, people spend so much time thinking of the past and the future, and they let them slip away right in front of them. So it's not easy to stay energetically in the present. In other words, if I'm in a lot of suffering right now, if I'm in a lot of pain, my mind will think of some future place, some future time when I'll be free of pain, or some past time when I wasn't in pain. And so I basically left the present. It takes a lot of tolerance to actually stay with the pain in the present and not want to leave it. I don't know if I mentioned it here, but I was looking at Erich one time. This was back in the 70s in Mandalay Hall, and he'd been talking, and I just happened to look at him through a different window than I usually see him. And I said to Erich, I have a feeling that if I were to inhabit your body for a half hour, all I'd want to do is go unconscious and asleep. And he looked at me with a real acknowledgement. But what I mean is that the amount of pain he was able to bear, well, if I had gone into his body, I would have been crushed by the suffering that he was able to endure. But he was able to stay in the present with that pain and kind of share stories and be very casual and relaxed. But he didn't leave the present moment in spite of the tremendous pain and suffering it was for him. He didn't go the way most people do, into the past or the future, or into some distraction or drug in the present. Anyway.
I think the opposite is also true for, at least for me. Everything is fine in the present, but you imagine things that may go wrong in the future and start to start to keep worrying about it, or be anxious about it, even though everything may be just fine, your health is fine, and everything is just perfectly fine. but something,
Yeah.
something or other you hook up in your mind, and um, you're still not in the present at that time.
Mhm. Yeah. But that means there's some discomfort in the present, which would even have you think about the future. And what I always did is when I was worried about the future, even though I'm doing fairly well in the present, but I'm worried about the future, I focus on the worry that I'm experiencing without without thinking of it with the mind. In other words, I just experience the raw emotion of worry without thinking, without bringing the mind into it, so that I'm still in the present. Does that make any sense?
No, I didn't
But
quite get
Um, in other words, say, suppose you're sitting there in your place right now in Seattle, and you start worrying about something that's going to happen tomorrow. Now you can get into the thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, or you can pull your awareness back and just be aware of the raw emotion that's of worry without going up into the mind with it.
Mm-hmm.
That worry will be somewhere in your body, somewhere in your heart area, that anxiety, a little bit below your heart where fear is. You can track the fear without going into the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah,
It's
I got.
not an easy thing. It takes years to kind of cultivate that, but that way you still stay in the present. And not only that, but you feel Baba with you when you're doing that. Whereas when you're worried about tomorrow it's harder to get Baba into there because the world, the mind is taking over. The same thing with the past. You start thinking about how beautiful it was in the past. Why are you thinking about how beautiful it was in the past? Because there's something that's not beautiful in the present. I mean, there's a little bit that causes you to go longingly to the past. But you can
I,
feel the longing, the ache in your heart without bringing in the images of the past. You follow?
But what do you
Anyway,
do
that
with
was,
that? What
huh?
do you, what do you do with emotion though? Especially the one in the future part.
Say, say that again.
I think somebody needs to be muted.
yeah, I'm trying that.
Yeah, harangue.
What do you do with that emotion though once you track it? The
I
fear.
just track it for however long it goes.
I see.
I once tracked anxiety for 4 months in and behind my work.
Hmm.
But then you become friends with it, so it doesn't bother you so much.
But sometimes past can help enrich your present experience. I mean, all
Yeah,
the beautiful memories of, remembering if you saw Baba say in 1962 or
yeah,
years, and it can help enrich
yeah.
the current experience, I think.
But see, there the memories are coming to the present. You're not going from the present to the
Right.
past.
Yeah.
In a way, if the past and the future, like say, Marwan Prasad might be planning a surprise birthday for somebody. It's possible, even though it's a future event, it's possible to stay very excited about it in the present. Anyway, this is just things that I kind of gathered along the way. You can, if they're relevant or they work, try them. I'm willing to try anything.
No,
But
I
to
tried
keep
that
you in the
once,
present,
Jeff. I mean,
huh?
I was just sitting alone, and I don't know why, but suddenly I realized if I just keep compressing time, and then I felt that, you know, uh, you are there when Baba is there. That kind of experience I had, even though I didn't meet him myself in physical form. So, I mean, if you just compress time and to that extent where there is only present. That kind of feeling
Yeah.
is, I mean, I didn't feel anything, but I just started imagining with my mind. And then I said, wow, then I was there when he was there in physical form. I mean, so, I mean, it's almost like, trying to bring the time to a literal stop. And, I mean, you can work this in your mind. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
I felt anything, but I think
No.
that, go
Yeah.
ahead.
That I brought that up with Darwin
Mhm.
because we think of Baba as having lived this life in time, but he's also living this life in timelessness. In other words, Valmiki wrote the Ramayana 300 years after the life of Ram because he contacted the timeless present and was able to experience the life with Ram. And it is possible to actually be with Baba at any time in his life, in the present, in the timeless present. It's possible to do it. And I went over that with Darwin. Because some people would say, "Oh, Darwin, you get to share all these experience, your times with Baba. You get to relive them." And Darwin would say, "Not relive. I get to live them. They are eternally present experiences." I don't know
That
if
is
that
true.
makes sense, but it sounds esoteric, but it's an internal thing, kind of what Prakash was talking about.
I
You know,
mean,
yeah,
if only we try to remove the time from the equation, things can look quite quite different, I should say.
yeah. I mean, that's why you can read a Baba book about Baba in the 30s, and sometimes you feel like you were there with him. You're as you read it, and you actually are. You know, your consciousness unplugs from time and goes over into the movie that is going on eternally of Baba's life. Even if you're just reading the words, you don't realize that you've been hanging out with Baba in the present. Anyway, I don't know if this gets a little esoteric, but these are they're not theories; they're inner experiences.
The other day, I mean, I just listened to some message Baba gave. I don't have the full account of it. Uh, Nosh was, going back and forth with Baba on meditation and things like that. I mean, in the times when he was trying to, you know, almost literally surrender and sort of seek what you call renunciation. And we all know the message Baba gave: give up nothing but your present attitude. That's what he told
Yeah,
Nash.
yeah,
And then he also, I mean, I vaguely remember today. I mean, I didn't. I wish I had listened to it fully. But then he said, somewhere Baba said, "Do not strive for love. Do not strive for love." Uh, Through all these practices, that I I don't have a full account of it. Do
yeah.
you know anything about that? I mean, have you heard?
Yeah, I seem to remember that. Love is kind of when you finally relax, then love comes to you. I mean, we kind of settle back into love.
I guess when you're least expecting it, you start to sense that,
Yeah,
that awareness, I guess, that feeling. Hmm.
yeah, it's at the deepest,
Now,
deepest
here
part.
is somewhere somebody asked Rumi, I guess, I don't know, someone asked, what is love? So then the answer is, be lost in me. You will know love when that happens. And that's what is here.
Yeah,
Love has no calculating in it. That's why it is said to be the quality of God and not of human beings.
It has no
God loves,
calculation.
yeah, there is no calculating in it.
Good. Yeah.
God loves you is the only possible sentence.
There's a line from Rumi you probably heard. Love is the last 30-pound bale. When you load it on, the boat tips over.
Basically, you become nothing. I mean, you're no more there, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that quote you started off with. I mean, it's your own quote, sort of, but I liked it. I mean, it says that there is something loving you can do every moment. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful, so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I should tell you that changed my life quite a bit recently after I heard that. I mean, not that it's there somewhere in consciousness, but when somebody else like you says it,
Yeah.
it stirs up things in your own consciousness. And I thought that really helped. And I keep telling my kids this. I mean, there is something loving you can do every moment. So beautiful.
Yeah. He didn't say every day there's something loving, always something loving been done, but every moment.
Yeah.
And, and Baba, with the indication, well, Jeff, just look around. There's a little kid that wants someone to play with, or a friend is
Yeah.
going through difficult times, or you're stuck waiting in line to vote. You can be saying Baba's name inwardly. There's so many, or much of what can be done is trying to remove the impediments things that impede the flow of love through us.
Right.
There's always something loving that can be done. That's what Baba convinced me, but he brought it, like I say, every moment. He didn't say every day, every
No,
moment.
that's true. So true. I mean, that impeding of love does happen. I mean, definitely when I see things going around that I don't like, but then and then I figured it does require some effort. I mean, you have to consciously, make that small step and realize that, the love has to flow no matter what, you know, uh, the mind is trying to, the mind is trying to interact at its own level, but the love can still flow, which I really love it. I mean,
Yeah.
but I figured it does require a lot of effort too.
But when Baba said that to me, even to try to be loving is a form of love. And you're trying to be loving may not be as loving as some of what someone else is able to do. But if you're trying to love, we can always try to love in every moment, which fulfills that. Trying to love is one of the forms of love. That thing I read, I'll read it here because some of the people didn't hear it. That what Money wrote?
Oh,
yeah, that's so good.
You must have shared with us. Let me see if I can find in the email.
Yeah, how weird. Oh, here it is. I got it. This is what Money wrote. Why were the saints saints? Because they were cheerful when it was difficult to be cheerful, patient when it was difficult to be patient, and because they pushed when they wanted to stand still and kept silent when they wanted to talk, and were agreeable when they wanted to be disagreeable. That was all. It was quite simple and always will be. And you can imagine, the Mandali made that great effort to be patient when they didn't want to be patient, to hold their tongue when they wanted to speak. you know, because when speaking would hurt somebody, hurt somebody's heart, they were able to, and you think, oh, well, that's what love, doing these things is what love is. And saints are saints because they have made lifelong efforts at that, I would say. Yeah.
Like Hafiz somewhere said, go against your nature, right? I mean, that I believe it's almost the same.
Yeah. And you know when you have to be patient, you know.
But not when you really have to be. You know, I just put out and then I realize, I mean, sometime or a few minutes after that I shouldn't have. So, yeah.
And Eric said, when you do express anger towards somebody, I'll get you, Lenny. At least make sure you apologize. That's the loving thing to do. Yeah, Lenita.
Yes, I just want to read a little bit. You know, I was most listening to you guys, but I came across this quote by Rumi.
Yeah.
It says, do you want to enter paradise? To walk the path of truth? You need the grace of God. We all face death at the end, but on the way, be careful, never to hurt a human heart.
Beautiful.
Rumi.
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
This is the hardest thing to do, you know, not hurt each other, because we're doing this all the time without knowing, without willing to do that, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah, Baba said to Erich, who Erich was very honest. But one day, the first part of this I'll paraphrase, but Erich was, you know, growing up as a Zoroastrian or a Parsi, being honest was one of the major tenets. So he was always very honest, but he would be kind of a little bit outspoken and call people on things and hurt people. And Baba let him do it for some years. And then one day Baba said, Erich, you're very honest, but your honesty is different from mine. Your honesty, I'm paraphrasing, can sometimes hurt people. Then Baba said, this is the quote from Baba, the truth is that which uplifts another. Whatever crushes another person's heart cannot be true. You know, even if it's true in the worldly sense. You know, Lenita does a painting and her back wall there, and I say, Lenita, that's a terrible looking painting. You know, it might be true, but then it hurts you. So I have to say, you know, you really have a beautiful signature at the bottom right part of that painting.
You know, it's so funny that I was having this conversation with my sister today on the phone. She's in Brazil. That, you know, I said to her, we talk about being honest, and I said to her, sometimes, you know, we don't need to be so honest and true to please ourselves, you know, and you just tell the person something nice, even though you have to, you know, even it's not a completely truth, but it's going to make the other person happy, you know. And I said to her, because she's not a Baba person, but she hear me to quote Baba all the time. So, and I said, that's what Baba said, you know, make your others happy at the cost of your own happiness if you need it. You know, that's a hard thing, but it's funny that we are talking about this and now we are talking about the same thing. You know?
No, but a question to all. I mean, where does being natural figure into this?
You mean natural and honest and that type of thing?
Yeah.
Well, kids, you can almost see how what kids say. Because they'll say things that are pretty, if said by an adult, would have a different reaction. But kids will say, you know, why is your hair that funny color?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it they just do stuff like that. And yeah, of course they get away with it. As grown-ups, we can't exactly be that natural.
You know, somebody asked this question to Erich, I remember that, you know, our naturalness is actually to be loving and very, and not really being mean or hurtful to others. That's
Yeah,
our real nature. Anything that we do opposite to that is what is unnatural.
right. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Heart natural, not desire natural or mean-spirited natural.
Yeah.
Not like Prakash, you know.
I mean, let me throw another wrench at this. I mean, into this. Be yourself. I mean,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I mean, so that I mean these two things: be yourself and being natural.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, long time back, I was listening to a program on PBS, and there was this lady who went through almost a near-death experience. She felt that she died, but then I mean, I don't know what phase she went into, and then before that, and then she came back and she says, "Now I'm being myself." And then somebody asked her, "What do you mean you are being yourself? How were you before this happened?" And she said, "Well, I was trying to please everybody all the time and going beyond what I could do to make others, sort of like her, perhaps." And but then she said, "After this thing happened, I'm being myself." I wish I remembered what she meant exactly. I don't think she explained what is being herself.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was just thinking about that. Suddenly, it just came into my mind.
Yeah. No, that's a good example because if you can drop out the need to please others and let love be the one that pleases others rather than you, the love in you. Otherwise, it gets a little bit unnatural. There's kind of, I mean, it's a burden that people have sometimes where they have to feel they have to please everybody when they could just kind of relax and and please when the situation requires it and not be continuing to do it when it doesn't need to be done.
Oh, okay, great.
That's when love knows when to be helpful. Yeah, in fact, Baba said, if you were to look, this is in the discourses, if you were to look for opportunities to serve others, it would be a form of selfishness.
Right.
But he said to be in readiness, be in readiness. If there's
that's
a
a beauty. That's a beauty.
I was very surprised when I read that, many years ago. If you were to look, because I was kind of always looking for situations to serve. But it's better to just be in readiness because I got totally exhausted eventually.
So you're saying when there is no need, if you render help, it's a form of selfishness. I mean, I wouldn't say selfishness, but it's something that's not really necessary. It might ultimately just help you please yourself rather than, because the situation,
Yeah, you're living according to an ideal rather than directly from the heart. And it's a good ideal to be helpful to others, but the heart may know when it's good not to help somebody. How are you going to know that if you always apply this ideal? So
it should be spontaneous. If you're starting to look to help people, then you're doing that to please yourself, to make it's not because it's something you should do.
Yeah. Yes, it should be. Love will do it spontaneously, but then what Prakash, you were saying, doing good is calculating. There's a little bit of calculating in there. It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's nice to have good people around, but loving people is something, a different dimension. Sometimes, Erich, I notice in Mandalay Hall, someone would say, Erich, how do I know whether this would be pleasing Baba or that, whether I should do this or that for Baba? And Erich would say, the heart would never, love would never ask that question. Love knows, but there's some other self-interest in there that's making a conflict. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, a lot of the spiritual life is trying to make the distinction between self-interest and love. Sometimes what looks like love is the self-interest, and what looks like the self-interest is the love. You know, love may say no, self-interest may say yes, because the self-interest may want to please somebody, but love may say no because you're too exhausted. You can't do it at that time. I don't know if that makes, can you see that distinction?
Sorry, Jeff. I mean, if you can elaborate more on that. I mean,
yeah. Like, suppose, Prakash, you're in the habit of asking me to over to your place so you to get my carpentry skills. Mm-hmm. You know, but you're in the habit of doing that. And I want to keep my friendship with you, so I keep saying, yes, yes, I'll help you out. But love may say no, because it knows that it's feeding a tendency in you that's not healthy for our relationship. So the heart may say no, love may say no.
I see. Yeah, no, that makes it clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're subtle things that the Mandali knew. They were pretty clear on those things. But you can always ask Vijay to do anything. You know, like any time of day, 24-hour selfless service.
You know, I like what you said. You know, the kids are very frank in what they say and we don't mind it. But when an adult says, suddenly it can make a big difference. So, I mean, what I see here, the difference is basically the kids are reacting with no base. The base of operations is, like you say, you know, Darwin says, is very different. I mean, they're just, there is no calculation behind, sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes a big difference. I mean, because the reason why I think we don't feel much when a kid says is because I guess we communicate on all levels of consciousness, as we said, the gross, the subtle, and mental. Since the feelings in their mental body, perhaps, are not really, you know, there. I mean, they're just reacting to something. But whereas when an adult says, perhaps there is some sort of thought process or something they eject out of their mental body, which makes the other person uncomfortable, besides just the words that go out.
Yeah.
And so that probably affects us more.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to tell Lenita that she looked better before she had the facelift. No.
I can't believe you noticed, Jeff. Do you notice that I had a facelift? Oh my God. I didn't want anybody notice because I want everybody thinks I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Without touching, without retouching, without stretching and pulling.
She just celebrated her 84th birthday and she looks great.
Absolutely. 84, look at me. Jeff, you're funny.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So sometimes, I mean, we should be telling truth to people we love, like say we want to correct something, right? You took an example of painting, bad painting. So
yeah,
if a child is drawing a wrong, I mean, bad painting, I should tell her so that she improves, right?
Yeah, when those who are closer to you, you can be a little more honest because you have the bond of love, so that they can take a little criticism without rocking the boat. The boat is like an ocean liner, and it's not going to tip over with a little criticism. But to your boss or one of your fellow employees, you don't have the same freedom to give them feedback. You have to gauge it because you haven't got that great depth of love between you that can handle a few waves, choppy waves. You may have to just hold your tongue, unfortunately. What kind of work do you do?
I'm software engineer.
Yeah. And then you get into a whole situation where you got a boss above you and
yes,
and who may be temperamental or whatever, and that's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. But it can be done.
Yeah. Also, we have to try to please our bosses, at work.
Yeah. Yeah, you may have to swallow a few things here and there. Unless you're willing to kind of risk your job. It's nice though. I mean, sometimes if you get a boss that can take feedback, who has the depth of love that can receive feedback without taking it personally, but that's more rare. Mayor Prasad has a lot of people under him, and they don't say anything displeasing to him.
He's a Boston. He's a boss.
Yeah.
I have a boss
Okay.
too.
What's that?
I have boss too.
Uh-oh.
But when I feel that I'm not able to do or give 100% to my job, that's when I'll, even if it is against my boss, I will do that.
Say that again.
If it stops me from giving my 100% to the job, to my work, and if it is a result of something that my boss is doing, I will go against him. I will tell him that.
Good. Yeah.
And if the problem doesn't get fixed, I will just look for another job or another position or something.
Yeah.
And that happened recently to me, actually. Where I didn't quite agree with what was being done, and I was not able to give my 100% to the work I was doing, so I just had to move out.
You had to leave your job, or?
I had to move roles, basically.
Move roles.
Different, change the division.
Yeah.
But that's great, Mayor Prasad. I mean, you're one of those fortunate ones who has the courage. But if you take my example, I'm the one to just give in and then grudgingly do the work. I mean, and I mean, I was the type to be afraid and not to lose my job, realizing the responsibilities I have. I guess many, I mean, at least I was like that. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't fight things too hard. At some point, I just give in and do whatever is necessary. But I have seen somebody like you, I mean, at my work, and he would fight it out and then, and do things he thinks are right. And obviously, I always knew he was right. But then he would raise his voice and then, sort of let the boss or whosoever in the authority realize that it is not right. But again, that's, all these things are so, at least in the corporate world, there is no one solution to anything. I mean, we all know the goal, but the solutions can be umpteen. And that's where the differences happen, actually.
Yeah, there's one one line from Baba that it's an unfortunate truth, and at the same time, it's a it can be helpful. Where Baba said, I think he said it to Arnavas, it is nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right. Think of that. It is nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right. That's a painful truth, but it's also like in the corporate world, it might be a valuable motto.
Yeah.
That you're not actually being, you're not really compromising. You're having to endure something that goes against what you want, but you get a chance to grow spiritually.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great way to balance, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, can you tell us where that was from again, please? This is Kaya.
I think it's in her book. Hey, yeah.
Hi.
I think it's in her book.
Arnavas.
Yeah, Gift of Grace.
Gift of God, I think.
Gift of God, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
what Arnavas means, I think.
Arnavas, yes.
But you might want to write this down because it's verbatim.
I'm writing it, yeah.
And it's a very valuable truth that Baba gives. It is nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right. I mean, that for couples, that's that's one of those unfortunate truths.
But I think we have to be really careful in interpreting that, because if you're trying to escape by thinking that, oh, I'm going to give in,
yeah,
the spiritual value, but sometimes it's really just a hidden way of escapism.
Yeah.
That part really needs to be.
Yeah.
You have to really look at what your intention is. Why are you doing that? That intent needs to be really careful. Otherwise, it becomes a very easy escape.
Yeah. Yeah. But normally we, feel like we should stand up for our truth. And here is an exception. Because like say, Prakash has a couple of boys. If he kind of doesn't give in to the boss, he may lose his job, and he's got 2 kids to take care of, who are eating him out of house and home. No, they're long gone now, but they're on their way. But so yeah, it's like, are you compromising? Are you being untrue to yourself? It gets into a difficult area, but that quote helps. That's one of the, that does one thing to help. One thing I find is some people say, well, I have to live my truth. But sometimes living your truth isn't very sensitive to other people. Living your truth and living the truth are two different things. It can be. Sometimes they're one and the same, but not always.
Yeah, I heard Irut saying this, and this was not something I heard before. Somebody asked him, just like what you're saying, should I do this or should I do that kind of thing. They were asking him, do we really have a choice in what we do? And Irut said, yes, we do have a choice. There is a choice of doing it our way, in the way that pleases us, or there is a choice that is a way of pleasing him.
Yeah.
You know, one of those two ways.
Yeah.
Those are the two choices, he said.
Yeah. And you can feel the experientially, you can feel the difference. One doesn't quite have the right ring. It's a little bit sharp or flat, not quite the right note. So Payam, you were thinking, were you kind of connecting that with your work?
Oh, with so many things, as you guys were talking, I was bringing my work into it because I see people wearing so many masks. I too wear it. Actually, we all do in some way. And to be natural is almost like not wearing any mask. It's not the mask of, let's say, pleasing someone or getting approval from someone, or like you said, sticking up for what you think is right in the world. There are all these layers of masks. That's my kind of metaphor that kind of helps me a little bit. And being like in the company of the Mandali, and I felt so much at home, it was as if I didn't have to wear any mask. I was just free to be myself, and they were just so loving and accepting, which was, a glimpse of what it was like probably to be with Baba. And people I've heard say it was like being home. It was like I've arrived home when I embraced Baba, or that it was my true self. Something I think you had shared about someone's experience. So to be ultimately natural, I feel, is just being in the state of not having to wear any masks. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, what's nice is when you're in the presence of somebody that truly accepts you, you can just be yourself. The world, unfortunately, is got a lot of people who don't accept you. So it's very hard how to be in the face of people who don't accept you, just,
yes,
and how to be still genuine in the face of that. It is possible, but it's an art, because they're not letting you just be yourself externally, because there could be consequences.
Yes.
I mean, but if you can be yourself inwardly, you can still be genuine inwardly and kind of play the game a little bit. Like, say, when there's a little kid, you get down on your knees, a little baby, and you are playing that language of the little kid. You're not talking like using big words with a little kid. You leave your natural personality, your adult personality, and you get down to a little kid's personality. And you're not really being false to that little kid. You follow?
Oh, absolutely.
But many grown-ups are the same way.
It's true. Yes.
You're having to, and like I say, when you're down on your knees and relating this little kid and his world, you're not putting on a mask. There's a genuineness about that. And the same is possible with grown-ups. If you can still be genuine and speak their language. Well, it's an art.
It is, and I agree very much so, because in my work sometimes I feel like a chameleon. And so for some people I have to come across a little bit more strong and direct, because that helps them to take the next step. Whereas others, I have to be really soft and gentle and not too directive and let them come to that decision for themselves. So I'm a counselor, for some of you who don't know. And I work with kids a lot, and some of them are very head fast, and here's my dog. Hold on. Let me see if I can talk. Anyways, and for some of the kids I work with, very timid, very shy, very difficult for them to be social with other kids. And they need a little kind of push to get them more confident. So it's such a dance.
Yeah. And you can be genuine in each situation, even though your personality is having to change from person to person and situation to situation. So it is possible to stay genuine in and behind it. But yeah, you sometimes have to be a little bit of a chameleon. Meet them in their world.
Yes.
I mean, if someone comes to the center and I'm showing them around and I can see their background is Christian, I have to kind of calibrate what I say, or how I interact with them, taking into consideration their religious or spiritual background. And I'm not going to dump Baba on them. I have to kind of calibrate everything to what would be meaningful to them, what they can actually relate to.
Yeah.
Well,
and then it's like we were talking about in the effort and grace, also being in tune with our intuition. That's what I'm trying to really work on now, is to get myself out of the way. And let Baba guide me more and more about what's needed in that moment.
Yeah. And you have to be Baba used the word flexible. You have to be so flexible that you can adapt to the different types of people. So you meet them where they are and not just have a one-size-fits-all personality.
Yes.
There's some people that are like that. They're always the same with kids, with their wife, with their friends. They got the same kind of like crustaceans. They've got the whole personality is one, always the same.
Yeah.
And it's good, Baba said, to be flexible, so that you can, like I say, you can change according to who you're speaking with.
Where did Baba say that, to be flexible?
I know. I ran across it and I said, wow, Baba used the word flexible, but I can't remember where I saw it, unfortunately. You could Google it, like go to Lord Maher and type in flexible in the search and see if you did it. Because I hadn't seen Baba using that word, but it was there. Yeah. Hey, good. See you, Telly. Always nice to see you. We're getting kind of close to, oh, wow, we're up to 12 o'clock, folks.
I gotta go to.
Yeah.
It's over past bedtime.
Yeah, they shut Lanita's power off at 12 o'clock. 12:05.
Bye. Good night, everyone. Jai Baba.
Yeah, VJ. See you. I am.
Jai Baba. Good night.
Nice to see you, Mahmood.
Avatar Meher Baba
ki jai.
Avatar
Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar.
Thank you, Jai
Baba
ki jai.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Tom, nice to see you.
Thank
Marsha,
you,
always.
Jai Baba. And I was listening
Terry, I guess.
Listening to your good conversation and nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you, Mayor Prasad.
Yeah.
Happy dreams, everybody.
Oh, good. Yeah.
We're here.
Yep. You're here because you're not all there, right?
Yeah, we never are.
Everybody that's here is not all there. That's why we're here.
Well, let's all become nobody now. Go to sleep, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Jai Sima.
Yeah.
Jai Baba. Yeah.
Jai Baba. Thank you so much.
Jai Baba.